Have you ever heard of the Warrior Dividend? Well, today we're breaking down a source video that unpacks a pretty major policy announcement from former President Trump. The video claims this whole thing was a masterclass in political messaging, so let's dive in.
Right out of the gate, the source video we're looking at makes this incredibly bold claim. It frames the announcement as something totally unprecedented. The narrator immediately sets this tone of, high drama, telling everyone that something truly historic is about to happen. So, to really get what the source is arguing, we're going to walk through it in 5 key parts. We'll start with what it calls the historic bonus, then get into the nitty-gritty of the Warrior Dividend itself. After that, we'll look at the whole stimulus and patriotism angle, see how it plugs into a bigger economic story, and finally, break down the political strategy the source claims was at play.
All right, first up, the setup. According to the source, this announcement wasn't just about handing out a bonus. No, it was a calculated play designed to completely shift the national conversation.
And this is where the source's story really gets going. It points out that all the media speculation at the time, which it links back to Tucker Carlson, was predicting a big announcement about going to war. But instead, the whole thing pivots to domestic policy. The source presents this as a deliberate, bait and switch to throw everyone off. So what exactly is this Warrior Dividend? Let's get into the specific details that the source video lays out for us.
The very first detail from the source is just the massive scale of this policy. We're talking about over 1.45 million military service members who are set to receive this bonus. That is a lot of people. And the amount each person would get is, well, it's very specific, $1,776. The source makes it crystal clear this number was not picked out of a hat, and we'll get to why in just a second.
All in, the total price tag for this program comes out to a little over $2.5 billion. The narrator in the source video doesn't frame this as crazy spending, but more like a great gesture, especially considering how many people it would reach.
So who actually gets the money? The source breaks it down pretty clearly. It's for service members in pay grades 06 and below. And it also points out that this includes reserve members who are on active duty orders for 31 days or more as of November 30th.
And that brings us right back to the messaging. The source really hammers this point home. That $1,776 figure was chosen specifically as a symbolic nod to the year the Declaration of Independence was signed. It's a way of wrapping a financial bonus in this blanket of patriotic meaning.
Okay, so now we get to the why. The source gives us a two-pronged reason for this policy, one that's part economics, part patriotic message.
On the one hand, it's presented as a straight-up economic stimulus. You're putting cash into the pockets of almost 1.5 million people right before Christmas to get them spending. But on the other hand, it's sold as a patriotic reward, a thank you to the troops for their hard work and their loyalty. And here is the absolute crucial point in the source's argument. It makes a value judgment, calling the dividend the best kind of welfare. Why? Because it's going to people who, at least in the narrator's opinion, have earned it through their service.
Now, to make that point completely explicit, the source video includes this direct quote from the narrator. It draws a very sharp line between who they think has earned government money and who hasn't. We are showing you this quote directly just to illustrate the specific viewpoint and the exact reasoning being presented in the source material.
The economic logic, as the source explains it, is super straightforward. Step 1, the service members get the cash. Step 2, they go out and spend it, especially around Christmas. And the result? Step 3, a direct shot in the arm for the economy that helps businesses and, theoretically, creates jobs.
Now, the source is careful not to present this policy in a vacuum. It's actually positioned as just one piece of a much, much bigger story about an economic turnaround. The dividend announcement, according to the video, was just one highlight in a speech that was basically a laundry list of economic wins. The source frames it as solid proof of a wider recovery, one that it claims was reversing the damage from the previous administration.
For instance, the source offers up this specific data point to back up its case. It claims that hotel rates actually fell 5% under Trump after having shot up 37% under the Biden administration.
The source also claims a 7% drop in the national average for gas prices. But what's really interesting here is the narrator's little aside. They argued this drop is actually being held back by so-called blue states, and that otherwise it would be almost double, closer to 14%.
And the list of economic claims in the source just keeps going.
The narrator also says that prices for new cars and food were coming down, real wages were going up, and that costs for things like electricity and mortgages were also on the decline. All of it meant to paint this big, comprehensive picture of a booming economy.
Okay, and finally, let's get into the source's analysis of the political strategy it says was really behind this whole announcement.
So the narrator floats this theory. What if the rumor about a war declaration wasn't an accident? What if it was actually a deliberate strategy? The source suggests that by getting everyone to tune in expecting some huge, somber announcement, the administration could then pull a switcheroo and showcase all its economic wins to a massive captive audience.
So to wrap it all up, the source presents this Warrior Dividend as this really clever, multi-layered tool. It's part economic stimulus, part patriotic reward, and part savvy political theater. And it kind of leaves us with a big question for today's political world. As these direct payments become a more and more common tool, how are they changing the very way we define political value and even economic merit?